un plaisir d'être là ce soir. Je vais vous parler en anglais, si vous permettez, de l'ordinateur quantique. So allow me to start with spring cleaning and reorganization and bring you back to the old times when you were a student and you only had a single cupboard, 2 T-shirts and 2 pairs of shoes. So organizing your stuff was a very, very easy calculation. Now, 20 years down the road, the headache has become exponentially worse. You have 30 cupboards and a department, you can fill a department store with your shoes and your T-shirts, and you could actually use a computer to solve your problem. And then when you go to your work, you're drowning into data. It's even worse. You need to process and transfer data and store data, all sorts of data with devices that cannot perform that well anymore. Why? Because we're asking more and more computing power from devices that are actually reaching their physical limits. So you dream of a new technology, and it's very likely that you have heard in the news that maybe a quantum computer, this magic device, will actually be able to solve all your problems. So now you're asking me, what is a quantum computer? I'm asking you what is a quantum computer, and you will probably tell me, oh, I know what that is. It's a faster and a smaller computer than any classical computer. And it can give me all the solutions of a problem at once, like this, instantaneously. So now the problem is that a very big amount of very cool, but also very wrong things have been said about the quantum computer. You can call this fake news if you like. So let's get things a little bit straight and see what a quantum computer really is. So a quantum computer is not just a smaller and a faster version of a classical computer, but it's neither a magic object, nor is it a pure science fiction product. Okay? So a quantum computer relies on these physical objects that we call the qubits, that can take the value 0 and 1 at the same time. So it relies on these qubits and on the correlations that these qubits build across a computing device, which now behaves as a massive parallel system that can perform an exponential amount of calculations at the same time. So now, this sounds awesome, right? The problem is that there is a trick. So there is a problem in there. Is that when you try to actually access this information by measuring your qubits, you basically lose most of this information. And it takes a very big amount of very clever trickery that we call in our jargon the quantum algorithms to actually be able to properly extract this information, exploit this information that has been present in your big quantum computer, and show its full potential. So when this happens, when you actually found this trickery, this is a game changer. It actually allows you to solve problems in seconds that would normally, with even the most powerful classical supercomputer, would take longer than the age of the universe. Okay, so this is really a game changer. So let me give 2 examples of that, of where this has actually worked. So a quantum computer can be used to find the prime factors of big numbers. So why is this important? It is important exactly because this is a very difficult problem. We use it for all our cryptographic transactions. So when you buy your concert ticket or your plane ticket online, well, if a quantum computer is around, this is not going to be secure anymore. Okay? Another thing that we can do with quantum computers is that we can use dedicated computing devices to simulate complex quantum phenomena. And why do we find this interesting? Why is this important? Because by simulating such phenomena, we actually understand them better. So I can give you as an example superconductivity at high temperatures, which is a big mystery. By simulating this phenomenon and understanding it better, it will allow us eventually to design new materials that will be able to conduct electricity at high temperatures and at low loss. So this can have a dramatic impact in energy transportation, energy storage. And many dedicated quantum computing devices can do more things. You can imagine helping in astronomical data and planetary exploration, or in analyzing chemical compounds that can eventually lead to the design of new drugs, the discovery of new drugs. Okay? So now, what's the problem? Why don't we have these systems yet. So what's happening is that for quantum computers to be useful, you need to perform very long computations to a big number of qubits. But qubits are like babies. They like interacting with their environment very much. And as they interact with their environment, they lose their properties. So in our jargon, we call this decoherence. So decoherence is actually the reason why we don't observe quantum phenomena in our everyday life. Okay? So now, what do people do? What do people that actually build quantum computing devices do to fight the decoherence? So let's take a few examples. So companies like Google and IBM and Microsoft and other fantastic, absolutely extraordinary academic labs around the world are trying to fight the decoherence. They are trying to correct the errors that come with it to be able to build a truly universal quantum computer. So how do they do this? You can see this as being a very cautious king who is, in order to make sure that his message, very secret message, is going to arrive at its destination, doesn't use a single messenger, but use lots of them. Okay, so you can lose a few, sacrifice a few, but you increase your probability of the message arriving. So this is the notion behind this error correction. And so now we were at 5 qubits, now we're at 20 qubit devices, soon 50, and even a bit further, 80 has been announced, and that counter is ticking. So other companies like D-Wave, for example, so they have a different approach. What they do is that they do specialized quantum computing devices that use a big number of very noisy qubits. Okay? They don't try to fight the decoherence, and so they try to solve a specific problem with this specialized quantum computing device. And if this problem is solved faster and better than with any classical supercomputer, then they are done. And finally, we had devices like the ones by Atos, which is not a quantum computer, but what they do, they use their very powerful classical computer infrastructure to simulate a quantum computing device, and by this helping us in getting insight into how this would work, even without doing an actual quantum computation. So now, the question you're going to ask me is when? When are we actually going to have, and it's really legitimate as a question, these super powerful, nice quantum computers? So what I can tell you is that we will have medium-scale quantum computing devices in a few years' time. Initially, these devices are probably going to do things that are not going to be very, very useful. But they will work at least as well as a classical computer. And even more importantly, we will be able to certify, to verify that what's happening in that device is really quantum. Okay? And this, for me, is already by itself absolutely fantastic, because it will show that the physical principles of quantum mechanics and the intuitions that we've had over these past years that the quantum computing is possible will be verified. So it means that we don't have to rewrite our physics books, and I can actually keep my job. Okay? And eventually, we will even be able to do super fast spring cleaning. Merci beaucoup.